That Movie Nut here with a review for Spaceballs, the 1987 science fiction spoof starring Mel Brooks, John Candy, and Rick Moranis. The story follows Lone Star and his half-dog, half-man sidekick Barf, who are hired to rescue a princess and her robot servant from the evil Dark Helmet, a member of a race called the Spaceballs, who are planning to suck the princess's planet dry of air. Once they've rescued her, the Spaceballs chase after them, and eventually they crash on a planet where they meet the mysterious Yoga, who teaches Lone Star the powers of the Schwartz, which is a mystical force that Dark Helmet also possesses. And from there it's a race against time between the four heroes as they attempt to stop the Spaceballs' evil plans. The casting all around is really strong. Mel Brooks, also being the director and writer, does appear as both the sage Yoga, who's obviously a take on Yoda from the Star Wars films, and as the president of the Spaceballs. And much like his cohorts Candy, who plays Barf, and Rick Moranis, who plays Dark Helmet, he nails the material, showing off his professionalism and years of experience in delivering each line flawlessly and to great effect. And that transcends onto his aforementioned peers, who do very well in their roles and perfectly emulate the characters they're meant to be making fun of, Chewbacca and Darth Vader, but bringing a sort of zany twist to it, with Rick Moranis providing a surprisingly good pastiche, not imitation, of James Earl Jones when he has the helmet down, and Candy shows us why he was such a loss to the world when being able to deliver a strong performance despite having to wear the prosthetics and the makeup to make him look like a dog. And he has good chemistry with Bill Pullman, who plays Lone Star, and he perfectly nails the tough guy role that the film has him make fun of. The princess and the robot servant also share good chemistry, turning the C-3PO Leia relationship that it's making fun of on its head and giving it a sort of sassy street smartness to it, which lends itself to a number of funny scenes, and the whole team clearly embrace the material and really run with it. Now, one of the film's strengths, of course, is its visuals. They perfectly replicate the big science fiction films of the 80s that this is making fun of. Star Wars, Star Trek, and of course classics such as Planet of the Apes. It's got it all. It's got the plasticky armor for the soldiers, the spaceships, the lasers, the long corridors. They even got a variation of lightsabers with rings in here, and it looks great. The production designer did a great job emulating that style, and it adds so much to the film, and it lends itself again to jokes, most notably visual jokes such as Dark Helmet's titular helmet, which is ridiculously oversized, and the Winnebago, which is clearly meant to be a take on the Millennium Falcon. And John Morris's score, as always, is top-notch and perfectly satirizes the works of John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith, being epic but also poking fun at itself, with plenty of big, bold instrumentation and a great sense of epicness that really adds to the film's lunacy. And now for the most important thing, as always, which is the script. And being a Mel Brooks film, the humor is key here. Now, as I mentioned before, and as is pretty obvious, the film is a take on Star Wars and many of the big space operas, the big science fiction films of the time. And being Mel Brooks, of course, you can expect a lot of inversion, turning what would otherwise be a serious, straightforward film into one that is brimmed with jokes. The film, much like Brooks' other spoofs, is self-aware, and it pokes fun at the ridiculous conventions of these science fiction films, with some notables being the ludicrous speed gag, obviously a take on hyperspace from a number of these sorts of films, and of course the Schwartz, a parody of the Force, though a little bit more lowbrow. The humor consists of, as I mentioned, a meta-humor poking fun at itself, as well as its fair share of raunchiness and some slapstick, most notably when Barf's foot is crushed by a statue of Yoga. And for the most part, it does work. The laughs, as with many of Brooks' earlier films, are here and they come quick. The timing is great, and you just feel so much energy from these actors. They know they're in something that is ridiculous and silly. They know they're making fun of people like Mark Hamill, James Earl Jones, and Harrison Ford, and they're just having a ball with it. And the production values help them feel like they're in a real science fiction space opera epic. And the production design, more than just that, helps play into a lot of the jokes. As I mentioned, the Winnebago, which at first glance may look silly, but it does actually work very well in the film. And of course, the opening shot making fun of basically almost all the opening shots of these space operas with a ridiculously long ship. If I really had anything to complain about with the movie, it would be the pacing. At times, the film does slow down, even when it's throwing jokes at you, and it does somewhat set off the timing, and sometimes it kind of loses a bit of sense, and as a result, some of the gags don't work as well as they should. And there are a couple in here as well that, unless you really embrace the Brooksian meta-humor raunchiness, will probably come off as either childish or uninspired, most notably the name of Dark Helmet's associate being Colonel Sanders. Yeah, you can probably tell where the joke is going to play into there, among a few others, but there aren't enough here to really break or ruin the film. And as I said, the satire stays strong, and the actors are clearly having fun with the material, which in turn transfers to us, the audience, and helps us embrace this grand, sweeping, yet undeniably silly world. And so I must give Mel Brooks' Spaceballs a silver star. While it does lag in a couple of places, and this was technically the beginning of the end for Brooks' career. After this, he would make Robin Hood Men in Tights and the dreadful Dracula Dead and Loving It. A lot of the energy and pizzazz of old Brooks is still here. A lot of the jokes are great, the acting is solid, and the production design just helps to complete it all, making you feel like you're in an actual science fiction film that's been turned on its head.